Good morning and assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Zmc Business Hour. It's Sunday morning, it's very early. We are at an earlier time this morning of 11 a.m. The Zmc Business Hour is a business show brought to you by the Zmc Network, a channel created to tackle community issues. Every week we bring you some entrepreneurs, some leading business owners and some business influencers to come and share their wisdom and their knowledge and hopefully help us all grow our businesses. I would encourage everybody to follow us on all of our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and please share our content. It's a community channel created for the community. Our guest today, a young budding entrepreneur, 26 years old? 26 years old. We've named the show today From B11 to Canary Wharf. Inspirational story of this young man, a very, very young entrepreneur been an entrepreneur for about 10 years, but started out very young. And we're very interested to hear his story and challenges he's faced to get to where he has got to today. If you'd like to call in live today and ask him any questions, our number is 0121 753 4131. That's 0121 753 4131. Now over to our guest. Can I introduce everybody to Abdul Shakur. Abdul, thank you very much for coming today.
It's a pleasure.
He's travelled all the way from Bedford today, so thank you very much. I know it's Sunday morning, I know it's early, and I know what the public transport is like. So thank you very much for coming today.
No.
If you'd just like to tell the audience a bit about yourself, who you are and what you do.
My name is Abdul Shakur. I'm 26 years old and I run a social media agency, as well as brokering property deals and raising finance for property developments. Okay.
So your journey from B11 to Canary Wharf, what's the B11 connection?
So I was born...
Bearing in mind our viewers, predominantly Asian background, predominantly from certain localities in the West Midlands. And it's really inspiring to see a young man like yourself who's actually broke the mould and gone over the adversities and got to where you've got to. And I've personally followed your journey for many years now. There's been some highs, there's been some lows, there's been some very highs, there's been some very, very lows. So we're looking for inspiration from you today and some leadership for our elder viewers to pass on to their youth and for our younger viewers to take inspiration from you and potentially follow in what you've done or what you've achieved. So your link to B11, the actual starting of your journey.
So I was born and bred in Sparkbrook. Okay. I grew up in my father's footsteps, who was a local religious leader, a local mosque leader, and growing up, I was prematurely born, so I always was born with this idea that I couldn't do anything physical. Okay. There was never any physical work or labor involved. Like my dad wanted me to go to uni, to have a degree, have a comfortable life rather than, go through the adversity that most people go through without education.
Which is what most parents.
Yeah. And, I think there's a lot of lessons I learned from my childhood, and I still look back at my roots and I think, okay, there's a lot that I can take away from it. I'm grateful for the upbringing I've had, because it's not been easy. My dad was didn't spoon feed me, didn't give me anything. I worked everything and built something for myself, on my own. Whilst my father gave me some certain skills, which was public speaking was one of them. From a very young age, he put me in front of stages, in front of the mosque, and he'd speak in front of thousands of people in different languages. And those communication skills then...
Would I be right in saying that you led Jummah at some point?
No, I wasn't. Okay. I didn't get that far just yet. I didn't get that far just yet. But again, there were speeches
but you were put on stage
competitions.
And you were public speaking at a very, very young age, which is very similar to what I've been through as well. And at that age, you don't realise how beneficial that's going to be.
Absolutely.
Later on in life, standing on stage, speaking in potentially Urdu language, which you don't understand fully yourself, and you're using all these big words. But it does condition you, and it does help you for later things in life.
Absolutely, and and a lot of people think, okay, you know, you come from a business background, for example, or you might have taken over your family business, which wasn't normal for me. Like,
so what was the family business?
There was no family business. There's literally my father was a scholar, and all my brothers or siblings did normal jobs.
Yes.
You know, I think only my sister went to university. No one else really went to uni. Okay. So there's high hopes from a young age to become this doctor or become this, you know, this financial accountant or any of those sorts. But my interests were in school. I used to love volunteering, so I spent a lot of time volunteering for the youth services, volunteering within charities and organizations, and that led me to pick up more skills, perfect my communication.
And that's very important, isn't it? Because we come across youth today who don't want to volunteer their time. Now, when you're volunteering your time, yes, you are giving your time, but what you're getting back in return is priceless because you're getting actual skills. And these skills sometimes cannot be taught in academic institutions either. You know, the skills you get of being a volunteer in certain organizations or in charities are absolutely amazing. A bit like apprenticeships, really. But you won't get that in an academic environment, will you? I mean, education is something, but real life experience is completely different.
I think not everyone's built for academia. Not everyone's built for that. You know, everyone learns in very different styles. Everyone has their own learning style. You have your own learning style. I have my own learning style. And what voluntary allows you to do is take that theory, take any information that you have or that you've learned, or even if that you want to test out in any environment, and you can put it to the test and see how impactful you are with those skill sets. Certain times you're completely out of your comfort zone and you're learning a new skill set. Like, you know, I didn't know what sales was at the age of 9, but when I did volunteering, I learned how to do ticket sales, learned how to do events, learned how to promote, learned how to use social media in its early days. So there were things that
we'll come on to social media surely, and you've achieved great things with your social media. And again, I followed you now for I think 5 years, and your social media has just, you know, it is potentially responsible for what you are right now. You've used it in a manner that has really helped progress your career and your personal growth. So I recall at the age of 20, 21 maybe, you were making these bold claims about you could change people's businesses. What qualified you for that, or what actually gave you that inspiration to think, well, hang on, I can look at somebody's business and I know where the flaws are and I can change their business, or I can make it better?
I think one is an outside perspective. It's always valuable to have an outside perspective, but one of the things I learned from a very young age was no one was, one, using digital, and two, again, you don't always learn from your successes. You learn a lot from your failures. So I had made a lot of failures from those years.
That's key. You learn from your failures. Yes. Okay.
And again, I didn't build a successful business. I built a fairly large business at a young age, but I failed that business. That business shut down. But I learned from what I did. So what was your first business? My first business was a social enterprise. We were providing local businesses, social media, website, things like that. Okay. But we would pay young freelancers. So we would somehow help unemployed young people who couldn't get work in marketing, because now everyone can be in marketing and it's easier to get a career. But back then, to get a career in marketing, you had to go through the traditional routes. But there were a lot of young, talented individuals that couldn't harness those skills. So one, we were offering services to businesses. We were getting government funding or grant funding to be able to train those young people. And then once they're ready, once they've done 6 months with us, we would then offer a recruitment service to the more established companies and say, hey, take a look at these young people. They've got a portfolio, they've got they've got a freelance, they can show that they can do the work. Why don't you hire these people instead of hiring people at university? And that was, you can call it a mini apprenticeship if you want to call it that, but that was the thing that I focused on. I wanted to somehow give back, take some of the experiences that I've learned, or being able to sell, being able to utilize my social media to build a career for myself. Okay. But I wanted other young people to see that and other young people to benefit from that, as well as building a business. So there was always this sense of purpose in mind. There's always a sense of, I want to make a difference in some way, shape or form.
So back in the day when social media wasn't used for what it's being used now, social media marketing wasn't actually as big as it is now. How did you spot the niche there? Because it was a very good spot, and 6-7 years down the line, without social media, businesses just can't get off the ground anymore. How did you spot that niche then?
I think it is, you can call it luck, but I was volunteering my time within certain charities, and I was managing their social media. I was managing, back then it was blogging platforms like Posterous and WordPress. And I was utilizing those platforms to share their story, to showcase what they're doing, show behind the scenes. I built volunteer groups on Facebook when Facebook groups was very early, and we saw how we can promote events or how we can promote services or even fundraising opportunities through social media and training volunteers. And I thought, okay, if this can be applied to charities, why can't businesses make the most of it? And why aren't businesses making the most of it? I remember going to knocking on a lot of the doors around our local community in Sparbrook, and I remember them saying, we can post ourselves. Now we charge thousands for what we do, but back then, you could barely charge £30 a month for social media management.
Yeah.
But it took time to get people to value it, to understand its power, to then even understand that actually you can leverage it for business. So
you mentioned that you knocked businesses' doors in Spark Hill and tried to offer a service which people didn't really understand or appreciate. But there's also the fact that you look so young. You still look so young. How did you overcome the age barrier?
I think one of the key things about overcoming an age barrier is you have to offer value in different ways. And what I mean by that is it's not just about your service or product anymore. You have to show that you've got other skill sets that you can help and support. So sometimes you're giving a lot more than you're taking at the early stage. But to begin with, I always saw myself as a connector. And networking was important. So the more people, so if people didn't want to buy my service, I thought, okay, who can I introduce them to that will be valuable to them? So I spent a lot of time connecting people where I possibly can.
So you became a trusted advisor as such.
And then when people wanted my service, or when I wanted to have that discussion, it was a lot easier to have that discussion because I've already given them something, some form of value or some form of connection that would go and help them.
You've built the rapport with them.
Yeah.
So after the social media business worked for a bit and then failed, what came next?
So I thought, okay, I want to go into the recruitment business. I want to go into the recruitment industry because when I had a bit of recruitment for helping young people recruit, so I thought, okay, why don't I help people find interns? Why don't I help people find graduate placements? Because I had the soft skills that young people needed, I could give them the training beforehand to be able to communicate in an interview, be able to go out there and put themselves out there on social media to find work, to find mentors. And so I started an intern recruitment business.
You mentioned the word mentors. At that time, was there a concept of mentors, or did people actually believe in mentors?
Absolutely. I got involved in a leadership program at a very young age. So I used to always look for opportunities where I can learn more skills or do more things. So I got involved in a leadership program called Uprising. It still exists today. And it taught me that they used to assign you a mentor to someone that you wanted. For example, if you wanted to be in a certain industry, you can learn from someone. And I got lucky. I got a mentor who was the marketing director of PwC at the time.
Okay.
And PwC being a global organization, having someone like that who can give you an hour of your time every single month, who can show you actually that's not how you operate, but this is how you can talk to those people. Because again, we live in two different worlds. I'm a young kid from Sparbrook. Why is someone in a corporate suit going to listen to me?
Yes.
So what that was valuable for, one is he could open doors for me and he introduced me to a lot of people in the city, but at the same time he taught me how to position myself so people would listen to me and respect me and value what I had to say. So there's this constant battling between me and the mentor where he would say, okay, that might not work, this might not work, but then, okay, I want to do this, but this isn't the way you should approach it. So there's so many lessons I learned from people in very early stages who told me, okay, you can't put yourself out there and just go and knock on the doors and asking for money. There's a different approach to it.
Yes.
And so I learned from a very young age to assign myself to different mentors who I could learn off, who could, for example, if I wanted to be in the property industry, for example, I would go and sign myself with someone from that industry who had the wealth of experience, volunteer my time with them, spend some time learning from them, giving them even free services just so I can spend that time understanding their knowledge, understanding their network, and just being associated with that person. Because again, a mentor is also a key figure.
Yeah.
And when you assign yourself with that key figure, people see that, people notice that you're surrounded by that one person.
But don't you believe, particularly with the Asian community, we have this notion, at a young age particularly, that we can't be taught. Our teachers are our parents when it comes to business. Academically, the universities and colleges teach us, but when it comes to business, our parents predominantly are in business. And if they're not, we have an uncle or a cousin who's in business. And we aspire to be like them and we try and emulate what they do. How important is it to have a mentor? And how important was it for you?
I think it's crucial. I don't think I'd be without, I don't know where I'd be without certain people that have come into my life and that have just, put me, sometimes you go way off path and you think, okay, you might be thinking this is the right way to go, but but you might be going totally away from where you're going, or you might be using a totally wrong approach. And where a mentor comes in is just to keep you on a straight and narrow pathway, say, okay, you are progressing, to hold you accountable to something, and then say, okay, give you advice from their experience and their knowledge. Yeah. So, especially if you're young, you can afford to make mistakes when you're younger. So that was the advantage I had. So I made as much mistakes as I possibly can from a young age, so I can then learn from those and not make those mistakes later on down the line. When you're older, or when you have parents, or when you have kids, or when you're married, you can't make those mistakes, you can't take those risks anymore. Yes. But when you're a younger age, you can afford to make bold moves and take huge risks that, you can pack your bags up and go to London, which I did. Yeah. So you can do that. Now you're married, you're moving is a totally different equation for me. But back then you could do whatever you wanted to and get away with it. So chopping and changing your idea and changing business. Yeah, people might see as, are you spreading yourself thin? But there are so many things that I've learned from each business venture, from each thing I associate myself with, that those skills come in handy today. So I don't regret that I didn't get anywhere in my first 4 or 5 years, or even 7 years, because there's so much that I've learned, so much knowledge, information, so much people that I've learned from, that now that's valuable to not only just me, but my clients and the people around me.
Yes, yes. So after the recruitment business, what happened then?
I kind of hit this glass ceiling, and I felt this in Birmingham. I felt like, one, I wasn't appreciated, and two, I felt like, okay, the senior business people within the city always saw me as a young person. So I had to go, okay, where can I go? What can I do to break down that barrier? Because I was getting frustrated, and it affected my mental health in many ways. And it led me to parts of not believing in myself and a lot of confidence knockoff effect. So I thought, okay, what's the easiest thing to do? Move to London. So I remember selling my camera and just picking my bags up and saying, okay, I'm going to go live with my auntie in London. We lived in Iran. And just spend some time there networking. Do what I did in Birmingham, but you replicate it in London.
Was it a ploy to reinvent yourself?
Absolutely. I felt like I had to invent myself because I wasn't too sure as to who I was, what industry I was going to be in, what I needed to do. There was so many things.
But yet you had a wealth of experience behind you because of all the businesses you tried and failures you've had. But they were all positive because you had a wealth of knowledge and experience.
Absolutely, and I realized in the bigger or larger cities, young people, the age is not a barrier. Yeah. I could walk into a meeting tomorrow and ask for 2 million, where if I was in Birmingham, I struggled to ask for £200. Yeah. Asking for £200 was a huge barrier back then. Yes. But now if you go into London, they're like, price isn't an issue, because they see someone for who they are, they see their experience, they see wealth. And then you had entrepreneurs in the mainstream media that were very young. So you had, the rise of Facebook, you had the rise of young entrepreneurs that were building huge companies. And that made it life easier for me going forward. So I took that and I went into a big city where age wasn't a barrier, money wasn't a barrier. I just had to go in and learn. Okay.
So how did you get to Canary Wharf?
It's funny, I always admired myself about Canary Wharf. There's a certain buzz about Canary Wharf that you just enjoy and love. And I thought, okay, what's the easiest way I can get myself a foot in the door to build relationships in that area? And I thought, okay, I started doing events, free networking events. They started off I used to run something called the London Property Network. It started off in hotel lobbies. So you turn up to a hotel lobby, speak to receptionists and say, we've got an event in this corner, in the little corner of the lobby, in a fairly large hotel, so you can take over a lobby. We had 20 people come in, 30 people come in, 50 people come in. And just slowly every single month by doing these events, people just turn up a network and there was no presentation, there was no speech, there wasn't no structure. People just came in and they loved it because they weren't getting that anywhere else. And I thought, okay, now that I've got a database of emails and I've got a database of connections, who can I go to that would value that? So I looked at the list of companies in Canary Wharf and I thought, okay, what if they could host my event in their venue? What if I can then reach out to people within that locality and get them involved in sponsoring the event? And then when I started promoting that, it started to attract a whole wider audience across not just London, but across the UK, where people would travel to events like that. And from that first sponsorship, it just grew from there. I just built relationships in the area. Wasn't afraid to knock on doors. Social media was vital during that stage, where I used to go into LinkedIn. And even in my early days, I used to spend a lot of time on Twitter, asking people for coffees, just to pick their brains. I feel like a lot of people are afraid of doing that, but sometimes you just need to ask.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're one of the very few who actually just goes for it. Just doesn't care. Just goes for it. I think as young upcoming entrepreneurs, sometimes scared to ask questions or embarrassed that they may ask the wrong question. I don't believe there is anything such as the wrong question, really, is there?
As long as you clarifying something for yourself
Yes.
and you're learning from it,
Okay.
the question, why does the question matter?
This is it. Very important. So how did you know that you had the right idea? What actually struck it for you that this is the space I want to be in?
I think it comes down to, you take all your skills, you put it into a basket and you think, okay, what can I then call that basket? What industry can I put myself in? So I did events, I understood social media, I've done a bit of recruitment and sales. What can I do to bundle up all that wealth of experience and that knowledge and put it into one business?
Yeah.
That's where social media communities came about. That's where I thought, okay, I can help businesses increase sales through an existing network that we already built, like London Property Network, as well as helping them with their social media, creating that content and building them a group.
Well, I mean, having a group called the London Property Network has a certain ring to it anyway. It's got a certain attraction to it. So, great idea. Because whoever's on Facebook and in the property sector, in the property world, in the property market, when they see a group like London Property Network, of course they'd want to join it. But once they join it, what's the benefit for you? What comes of that?
It's the relationship. We undervalue relationships so much today. But people don't understand how to leverage relationships. Like right now, I'm able to broker a deal. For example, I know someone who might have a piece of land, someone that I've met through the property network. I might have another person who wants to buy that land. And I can just sit in the middle, broker that deal, and take away a huge commission check from it. And that's in property, that's a large sum of money. So if someone, for example, wants to say £1 million that deal, and I broker that deal for them, and I take away 1% of that deal, that's £10,000 in my pocket just from brokering that one deal.
So how did you learn to broker these deals? Did anybody actually teach you, or how did you learn? Because to me it seems like you're self-taught. And this is the point that I'm trying to get across to the viewers. How did you learn to broker such deals?
There's no such thing as I feel as though you're self-taught. You're always learning or taking inspiration from everyone. Even companies. I was listening to a documentary the other day, and they were talking about where ideas come from, or where creativity comes from. It comes from a mixture of different places. A lot of people who create original ideas take bits and bobs from different places. And from a young age, I understood that, and so I assigned myself to another mentor who was a client. So there's a property developer that I said, okay, let me do your social media for you. I won't charge you for it because I'm building a network, and I want to build experience and build more networks. And teach me everything you know. So I used to travel from Bedford or wherever I lived, and I used to travel to see him, probably 2 or 3 hours in travel every day. And I would stay the nights for 2-3 nights in a row, and I would just follow him around. I understood the business inside out. I understood how he developed properties, where he rose his finance from, who had to connect to who. And then after I've learned everything from him, I thought, okay, I can add value to you, and you can be my long-term client, and that relationship stays. But at the same time, I can then do that for other people. So there's so many people that you can learn from, like even just reaching out. People afraid of reaching out to corporate directors or stepping outside their comfort zone. And I feel like a lot of business people, especially in Birmingham, or young people especially, they put themselves in a box. They stay in Sparkbrook, or they stay in this community, yet they can learn so much from a very young age.
It's a big world out there, isn't it?
It's a big world out there. Birmingham it's too small.
Yeah.
And you got to think about, okay, even if you think about Birmingham Road, people spend a lot of time in Sparkbrook. They might go to local networking events, they might speak to local business owners. But how about the Colmar Road side of town?
Yeah.
How about where the corporates sit? Yeah. I don't see many young people venturing in. Even if you go to the cafes like Urban Coffee or 2 Degrees around those areas, you don't see young people sitting in there networking. You don't see young people, or especially from an Asian community, you don't see people at the events. A lot of the time I was the only Asian in the room.
Yes.
Going into these events, and I remember sitting there with old white people who would just sit there and they would just look at me in awe, because they were like, this young Asian kid's come out of nowhere. Yeah. But again, they would, because you go in with the mindset of asking for advice and learning, they're willing to give you your time. So I would just go in and say, oh, can I get your advice on this, or can I pass an idea through you and get your feedback on it. But you're also kind of selling to them at the same time.
Yes.
Because
you're showing them what your worth is as well. Yes.
But they get to know your business. Yeah. They get to know the ins and nitty-gritty details, and then they're like, oh, I actually know who that might be valuable to you. Yeah. So I remember the marketing director at the time, he sent me a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet was the top 50 partners within the firms within Comoros at the time. And he said, you can use my name as much as you want. You can send an email with saying introduction, and organize coffees with a lot of these people.
Yeah.
So I just sent an email and said, okay, I've got something that I want to do. Can I get your feedback and can you arrange your coffee for me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the relationship starts.
Inspiration. Can I just remind the viewers, please, we are live in conversation with a young, I wouldn't say up and coming, I'd say complete entrepreneur, but yet I think he's got a long way to go yet, and he'll be going to bigger places. We are live on the ZMC Network website. We are live on Facebook. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask on Facebook, or you may call the studio in live at 0121 753 4131. Some valuable advice today, and some amazing inspiration from a very young chap who's done extremely well, going through adversities, going through all the challenges, and making a name for himself. So there was a period where you were homeless,
Mm-hmm.
and you went through some mental health issues. Would you like to talk about that?
I think in the early ages of entrepreneurship, and especially with coming from my background, I don't blame, and I want to make this clear, I don't blame my parents for anything that I've been through, because again, everything that you do is kind of your own doing in many ways. I take responsibility for my own actions. So again, I had this culture clash, or this barrier of, okay, I want to be in business from a young age, and that didn't go down well, especially when I dropped out of college. And I remember I used to try and maintain my business by working in lounges and cafes late at night to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would run my business during the day. So I was kind of like, I was doing 20-hour days. And that didn't bode well with my parents. So I remember coming home one night and my dad was like, look, you know, it's like you're renting here.
Yeah.
You know, I tried my key in the door wouldn't open. And I think it just clicked with me. I thought, okay, I've got nowhere to go.
Dad's kicking me out.
So you kind of just, I don't know why, I don't know, if looking back, I don't know why I did this, but I just kind of accepted it. And I kind of knew it was coming at some point, or I knew that, you know, if that was to happen, I could probably survive. So you just leave and you pack your bags and you go and you venture right to the streets. Luckily, I used to sneak into the back of a place to sleep in Digbeth. And the owner saw me one of the days. I was a customer at that place as well, but he saw me when he was leaving early because he had a garage during the day. And he saw me leave and he said, you know, what are you doing there? No, I noticed you're a customer here, but you know, what are you doing there? I was like, oh, taxi me at the house. So he let me sleep in the shop floor on the front. And he said, look, you can work for me for a roof over head and food on the table. I'll let you eat. I will pay. I will give you a roof and you can sleep in space, but just manage the place for me. Yeah. And so I took over. I kind of stepped in to manage that place as much as I could. Spent hours working, to get up in the morning, make them teas and coffees, open up the shutters, clean the whole place, get the first customers in the door, speak to the customers, make sure I build relationships with them, and just work my way from there. And then eventually I thought, okay, I need to get out of this situation. Why don't I try the social media thing at the time? I thought, okay, why don't I start knocking on doors? And there were customers that would come in that were business owners. So I would speak to some of them and say, okay, build relationships with them. And then I slowly started to build an income for myself. But I remember, I got to this point where I was like, okay, I haven't had a shower in months. I couldn't really sleep because you probably get 2 hours sleep and that was it. And so I knocked on my sister's door, and my sister was like, look, you look a mess. Come home. So I remember her taking me home, and then having that relationship with my parents, and just reintroducing me back in the family. And again, it took me years to build that relationship with my father again. There was a period of time where I wasn't even probably considered as a son. I wasn't in the picture. When my father would probably introduce other sons to the public, but I wasn't even in the limelight. And I think, it might be an age gap, might be a bit of and I think my dad wouldn't speak to me. I remember visiting him in the hospital, and he was, I would try and speak to him, and he would look at my mum, and my mum would respond to me, rather than my father directly speaking to me. So I think there were a lot of things that were, that affected it. And then, you've got the challenge of being a young entrepreneur, which comes with its own confidence issues and its own issues, where you're like, okay, someone, nobody believes in me, nobody around me actually gives me the time of day, and that has its own confidence of it, because you stop believing in yourself. And when you stop believing in yourself, or you give up on yourself, you can't really operate 100%. And everything is from a place of survival. Everything is from a place of, I gotta survive, I gotta put money in the head, I gotta prove myself. So you're pushing even more and more and more until you get to this place of burnout.
Yeah.
And you get to this place where you think, okay, what am I doing this for? Where am I? You know, you give up. I remember locking myself in my room for about for probably about 4 to 6 weeks, and just putting on weight, and just you know, just you know, sitting there eating and just, you know, watching stuff, and that was it. And again, with every challenge, there gets to a point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And you have to snap out of it. And then that's where I felt like, okay, I know I've got the skills. I know I've got something here. I know I've built something. I'm in a place where there's opportunities everywhere. I'm living in London. I've got everything that I want to. I've got everything on my forefront. Why don't I make the most of it? Go out there, build a new relationship with someone, go to an event, get it within their circle, start building relationships, and just widen your circle. I remember at one point in London, I was going to probably 2 events a day, 3 events a day, because London's a big city. There's so much going on.
Yes.
I would attend these events, you know, pick up the business. I remember I had no money at the time, so I used to jump through tubes, jump over the barriers in tubes, and, you know, sneak past people just to get from one event to the other because I had no money to get to somewhere. So you do what you have to do. You make the most of it. You know, I think a lot of people, not in a bad way, but make excuses as to, okay, I don't have this, I don't have resources. You can do something from nothing. We live in a world where we've got so much. We've got so much at our fingertips. I see so many people that are building businesses from their home.
Yeah.
Like I'm managing a team of employees. I'm managing clients all the way from one room, from just my laptop and a phone.
So what advice would you give to up-and-coming entrepreneurs like yourself? If they want to, I mean, we come across, you know, youngsters who have ideas, but don't know where to turn, haven't got the source of inspiration. And if you look at reality, there's not really much support out there for young entrepreneurs. There's all these organizations, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you have to have something from within. No organization can create your business for you and run it for you. So what advice would you give to the young up-and-coming entrepreneurs if they've got an idea? What should they do?
I think the first thing has nothing to do with the idea or business. One thing, you have to look within yourself, and you have to look after yourself. And I think that's where a lot of people's confidence and self-worth is built. So even the basics of looking after yourself and having a balanced lifestyle, going to the gym, working out, looking after yourself with haircuts, making yourself feel good, you know, that's where it starts from. A lot of people go into business with this goal of just making money or hungry.
Yeah.
You can't chase money. It doesn't work like that. You know, we live in a world where people can smell it off you straight away the minute you start being too salesy or too forward. So now we have to build relations, we have to connect, we have to add value. So the first thing is try and understand, okay, this is who I am. This is my business, this is money. But I'm not there to make money. I'm there to add value and put my skill set to help people get somewhere from A to B. And the minute you understand that...
I also need a support network around me of like-minded people.
Absolutely.
That's building relationships.
And if you're not valued in one place, go where you're valued.
Yeah.
I picked my bags and moved to London. A lot of young people have family across the UK, especially within Asian communities. They have families everywhere. We've all got cousins or something somewhere. Hey, pack your bags, go and live there and network and make the most of it. But I think the first thing I'd say is build a network, because your network, you know, they say it's your network, but I think when you start brokering relationships and building trust with those people, you can then eventually offer your service. You can then eventually build a business. But one of the things that young people or any businesses don't value is data and information. And what I mean by data and information is email address is a database. So if I now can go into any meeting tomorrow and say, look, I've got a database of 10,000 property professionals, you know, and I'm also offering you social media. They might look past my service of social media. They might not value social media, but what they will value is the network.
Yes.
So they will give me their business regardless of whether I offer them a service or not, because they will value the fact that I've got a network behind me and I can broker deals for them and I can actually bring them physical business.
Fantastic.
So if you feel like your service isn't something that you value or you feel like other people won't value, then leverage who you are, leverage your brand, leverage your network. Because the minute you start leveraging those things, you can truly open doors.
So what mistakes do you think you've made, or what are your regrets? It's a very short journey so far.
Yeah.
It's a very short journey and you've got loads to achieve here, but up until date?
I think consistency is one thing. I think, you know, I might follow my gut feeling, but sometimes there's some mistakes of like, you know, I didn't stick at it. I felt like after I had my marketing business and I went into my recruitment business, I felt like I should have stuck to the marketing and stuck to it and tried to do that for the next few years. Even when I had an operation, which is why the business went down. And I felt I came back and I thought, okay, there's so many marketing people out there. I want to change industry. I felt like I should have stuck to something. And a lot of people are afraid of consistency. A lot of people, the minute they get bored or the minute they feel like something is tough, they give up. And I felt like at the time, I feel like a lot of people just need to stay the course, because a lot of and I take this inspiration from the traditional businesses or the elders within our business community, is they've stuck at it for 10 years. They started a business, and a lot of people that we know in the network, they started a business, they stuck at it for 10 years, and 10 years later they've built this company, this huge empire. But they stuck at it.
Yeah.
And that sticking at it not only is a sign of discipline, but also it's a sign of, okay, you're going to see it through.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people give up too easily, and they think, okay, I've tried this for a few weeks, or even when it comes to social media, I've tried it for a month, it hasn't worked for me.
Yeah.
And they give up. They don't realize the long term. You can't just think short term money. You can't think short term thing, and you need to go out there and think long term. That's the first mistake I feel like I made.
I've just got a question coming in live. What's your notion of what's your thoughts on the notion of faking it until you make it? That's a very good question, actually. Thank you, whoever's asked that question. But it's a good question.
It's a very interesting question. I think at the start, I think it can work for a short period of time, but then people will see past that.
Yes.
People will see past that. There's no substance or value to you.
I think the key is there when you do fake it, make sure you have some value to add to the people you're engaging with, as you said previously, because it's about relationship building, and if you can demonstrate to them that you have some skills, some value, something to add to them, then they will engage with you.
Absolutely, and I think right now we live in this world. There's a couple of things that a lot of people, we live in this age where people believe in fake it till make it. It doesn't work. You just got to create value, and people understand value. People understand exchange of money. That's how, even before money was around, that's how people used to do. They used to exchange value.
Yes.
So if we come with that mindset of, okay, we're here to exchange value, then you don't need to fake it. You need to go in and be honest with them, be that transparency, which people respect now, that you're transparent and you can communicate and say, hey, look, I'm just starting off, I'm looking for a service to test something out. Is it okay if I offer you something at a reduced period for a period of time so I can then test something?
Yeah.
What's wrong with saying that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with saying that?
Exactly.
And it's the same with the idea of hustle. People have this idea that you have to work 20 or 30 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you have to work till you, and people are sold on this so bad that they burn out, they crash, they destroy everything that matters to them around them. They destroy their relationship with their family, they destroy their social circles, they destroy everything. And I feel like I really want to address this, because I've been there, I've worked those hours, I've destroyed everything around me. But I realize if 2 or more areas of your life are affected, for example, and it has a domino effect on everything else. For example, if your health is affected, it's going to have a domino effect on how you operate as a business, which means it's going to have a domino effect on your money, which is going to have a domino effect on your social life. So the minute you start to feel like there's a lack of balance, or the minute you stop improving things along the way, in every area of your life, only then can you truly grow. Because what you can make a lot of money, but you might not have the foundations, or you might not be happy, or you might not have the people close to you care about you. That money doesn't matter.
Money doesn't buy peace, does it?
It doesn't.
Money doesn't buy peace. Peace is more priceless than anything.
But also we need to learn from other people. So for example, let's look at the British cycling team, for example. The British cycling team is an organisation that has won consistently for a long period of time, and they've been the best at what they do. And I tell you the reason why. They've looked at improving every area by 1% each day. They look at improving the small item there. They look at improving the fitness. You kind of have an athlete's mindset in that way. So you have to say, okay, I need to improve my mindset. I need to improve this area of my life where I'm weaker. They need to improve my stamina. I need to improve my agility. So you got to treat yourself as an athlete in that way. So you have to say, okay, these are all the 5 or 10 areas of my life. What can I improve in each of those areas? And what that does, it builds a stronger foundation for you to then build upon. When you have weaker foundations, you can get somewhere, but then something's gonna happen, and then you're gonna go into this vicious cycle of just coming back down and going back up and coming back down, which happened to me for a number of years. I went up, did well, knocked back down. Same thing happened for a long period of time. But when I built stronger foundations in my life, I realized that I had some level of stability.
Yes.
And that stability then allowed me to then grow without having to fail or without having to fall back and falling hard.
So, what do you think of the the hustle culture? And what's marriage taught you about business? Because you got married
2 years ago.
2 years ago, a couple of years ago. And since then, I've seen a massive change in your social media activity and the way you conduct yourself and the way you present yourself. What has marriage actually taught you, and what's it changed?
I think I'm grateful that I'm married to someone who pushes me and tries to identify and look at all areas of my life and not just work. They see past the business person. Because a lot of times we identify ourselves as a business owner, and that's our identity. And a lot of times that stays our identity for a long period of time, but who are you outside of that? And he gave me a line like, okay, I need to start looking at those areas. But when you're a responsible person within your own life, you become a responsible person within your business. When you take control over something, like even when you're managing your finance within your own house, and managing your household bills and managing things like that, you start to then manage the same things in business. So that personal responsibility, or that personal sort of confidence, or that personal growth, then has a knock-on effect on the business. And I think marriage has taught me a lot about there's consequences to everything. It's taught me a lot that you need to be responsible, and you can't just cut corners, or you can't just willy-nilly do something. You have to really think about your options, and you need to be a bit more strategic. So it's given me, you can say hindsight, it's given me, but at the same time, a lot of it has got to do with that responsibility element. Because when you have responsibility, you start to think a bit more clearly. You start to think, actually, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Or this isn't worth my time. Like even charging, for example, a lot of people struggle with charging more prices. We charge anything between the region of £1,500 to £3,000 a month for our services. Even I started off at £300 or even £100 a month. To make that jump, I realized that actually I can't afford to give my time for that much anymore, because I've got to put food on the table. I've got a roof on my head. I can't charge £300. It's not worth my time. So you start to think differently, and you start to think, actually, I need to then raise my prices. I need to then value myself. I need to work on myself so that I can charge more.
Do you not feel that people are sometimes scared to charge more, and they'd rather take on another client because your responsibilities have increased? Now, to fulfill them demands, people sometimes take on more clients rather than increase their prices, and they're a bit fearful of increasing the prices because of the competition. What's your answer to that?
I think a lot of people who offer any service or offer a business are trying to raise their prices. I feel like, one, they don't value what they have, and they haven't associated a value with what they offer. For us, a lot of the times things come easy to us because we're in the industry. We offer a service, insurance for you. It's an easy thing for you to offer, but you don't know how valuable is it to someone else.
Yes.
So the minute you start to value what you offer, you can then start to charge higher prices.
And that's very important. Realizing your own worth and your own, valuing yourself. This is very, very important, because a lot of businesses face the situation that you face, getting married, increase of expenses, responsibility. They'll just go out and take more clients on and work themselves into the ground. And then that has that knock-on effect on the health, on the mental well-being, on it's that domino effect you spoke about again. And the ultimate result is disaster.
Absolutely. Like, I'm at that stage where I'm filtering clients, because I only want to work with people, one, I enjoy working with, and two, we have this rule that I only take on one client in per industry. Again, a lot of people have this idea of, okay, I want to build a business to make $1 million. A lot of people don't think about, okay, I need to build a business to be stable, have that level of stability. So a lot of people think, okay, I need to be rich. But 5-10 grand a month is rich. Think about it. The average person earns, okay, £1,000 a month, or the minimum wage, or whatever it is today, and they spend 40 hours doing that in a retail job. But if you could replace that with one client, and you only spend 10 hours, but you've got one client, then you kind of, it says to you that this is worth my time now. I'm in business I can scale this now because I'm now giving myself more money, more freedom, without putting the hours in. So actually you're saving yourself a lot of the time.
Brilliant. So in the current day and age, particularly after COVID, How should companies leverage themselves on social media, and how important is social media right now?
I think anyone that chooses to ignore social media, I think companies are built on social media. Now let's look at some examples. Monzo is a bank that's come around. They probably acquired 3 million customers without a single penny in advertising. You want to know how? They built a community online. They got people to be a part of something. And I feel like if anyone wants to leverage social media these days, it's not about numbers, it's not about how many likes or followers you have or how many people you think, it's about how many relationships you can do and what platform can you give other people. As human beings, we want to be a part of something, we want to feel connected to something, we want to try, we want to, why are we fans of football teams, for example? Because we want to be a part of something. Similar to in your business, you have to create that environment where people want to be a part of something. And I feel like rather than trying to increase followers or increase likes, focus on building communities around your business. And building, whether it's Facebook groups, whether it's an email newsletter, whether it's an offline event, and if you can combine the three, even better. But if you can build a community of business, not only will you increase the amount of sales, but you'll increase your conversion rate. So that means you don't have to go out to that many networking events. You don't have to do that many cold calls. You don't have to do those things because you've got a community of people that want to value you, who are there because you're solving a problem or want to learn about something. And eventually you can nurture those relationships to then buy from you. So I know my community that I've built, I know that person might not buy from me now, but they're going to buy from me in 6 to 12 months that time. But if I offer more value to them now, and if I show them the true value of the outcome that I'm trying to get people to, then they can buy from me quicker.
Okay. So, social media expert. Which platform would you think works best? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? And this is a question I get asked all the time.
You got to go where your audience is. So if your audience isn't sitting on social media, and isn't sitting on Facebook, or isn't sitting on Instagram, then what's the point of you being there? But if your audience is sitting there, that's where you should be. But I feel like a lot of people make this mistake of thinking, okay, especially high net worth businesses or high net worth people, they're not on social media. Absolutely they are.
They are, but they're sitting in hidden places.
They're sitting in certain places and you got to find them. Like if you can't find your audience on social media, find businesses or other people who can introduce you to them. So rather than building a community of your audience, you could build a community of referral partners or strategic partners that can get you that business.
Very clever.
So if you're not building, and again, people see communities, okay, I just need to find my audience and I need to market to them.
Yes.
But no, you can find business in different ways. We build referral partners. We build separate groups or separate campaigns just for referral partners because we know that if I can't find my audience there, I can go through a different route.
Yeah.
For example, you work with a lot of accountants and a lot of different companies, or a lot of people that can introduce you to business. But if you built a group just for all those people who are introducers and allowed them to have more information and more value so they can make more introductions to you, doesn't matter if you've got an audience of your clients, because you've got a value of people who are introducing you 2 to 3, 4 to 5 clients a day.
Fantastic, it's been absolutely inspirational. Parting words to the viewers. You've had an incredible journey. You've gone against the grain. You've gone against the norm of B11. You ended up in Canary Wharf. You've been homeless. You've tried several businesses. Do you feel you found the business that you're content with right now, or do you think there's going to be change?
I'd say you can't. I wish I found my business. Like I wish I can say that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But in this current time, you can't.
You're 26.
You can't be naive. You
Yes.
can't be naive. You can't turn around and say, okay, this is the company that I'm going to run for the rest of my life, because something might happen tomorrow. Like COVID is unexpected. It's destroyed a lot of businesses, which means companies have had to adapt and grow.
Yeah.
And I think.
What struggles did you face with COVID?
I didn't.
You didn't, because you were online.
Yeah. Because I built a community of people and I just strengthened my relationships and I came with data and value, and that was, and again, if a lot of people focus on one market, so if you can find profitable markets, like I found, like, okay, marketing to a local business owner who wants to spend money on social media isn't going to spend on money. But if I go to the property industry and work with a financial advisor, for example, I know that one client to them means a lot more. One client means to them £1,000, and they might do business with them 10 times a year. So that's £10,000 of business. So I can justify my value by going to an audience that's more profitable.
Yeah.
by saying, okay, I'm charging you, £1,750 or £1,500 a month, but what this means for you, if you get one client, I cover my cost, but that client's going to stay with you for a lifetime, for the next few years at least. So the value of my service becomes easier. It's easier for me to sell, and that's all I did. I rather than trying to market to new people, I focused on the relationships that I had already built. I went back to them and say, okay, why don't I give you a solution to your problem? Why don't I save you time? Why don't I help you during this period to grow the business rather than pull back?
So your final 3 tips to not just young entrepreneurs, to any entrepreneur who are now coming out of lockdown, and maybe wondering what the future holds, because we don't really know what's going to happen. We're getting different guidance from the government every hour, it seems. We don't know what the lockdown lifting looks like. We don't know what the business demographic looks like moving forward. Based on current times, based on your experiences, what would your tips be to the business owners?
I think one is managing your money. I think a huge part of the reason why I'm here is because, we have to manage our money in the right way. So it's the right amount of investment, a right amount of saving, a right amount of reducing your expenditure and costs. So I think managing money is important. The second thing is, I feel like a lot of people miss out on adapting or creating new products or services. We realized that we used to deliver a lot of our offline events for our clients. I had to say, okay, I can't do that anymore because of COVID. So what alternative service can I create that's still valuable, that I can still charge for, but I can adapt?
Yes.
So I think the answer to that is a lot of people need to find ways to adapt and innovate and change to the current climate. People who are afraid to change are going to try and stick doing what they're doing, and they're going to crash because the market's very different. So you have to adapt.
Yes.
And the third thing is, I'd say, is build a community. Because without community, the minute you have a community, you have influence. The minute you have influence, you're able to open more doors. You're able to get more business. And without a community, I wouldn't be where I am today. Without the network, without those people, without those relationships. So I'd say build a community around your business and focus on those relationships.
Fantastic. You've been absolutely inspirational. Honestly, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We wish you all the very best, and we hope to have you back here next year with an update on your next business venture. But I'm sure there will be many more ventures. But thank you very much for your time. Viewers, thank you for tuning in today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Do not forget, we run 24 hours a day, running community programs, news, sports bulletins, political programs, faith-based programs. This channel has been set up for the community. You are the community. Please like, share on all of our social media platforms. And the Zmc Business Hour looks forward to seeing you same time, same place next week. Until then.